The challenges that face Israel as it turns 59 are considerable. The Iranian nuclear threat, the arms flow from Syria to Hezbollah, peace with the Palestinians and moderate Arab countries, and the ongoing Palestinian terror remain key issues that threaten Israel's existence. The lack of true leadership to guide the country through the turbulent times that lay ahead is perhaps the most worrisome issue of all to the Israeli public. Does Israel have a strategy? Is diplomacy the only channel we should pursue? Or will we need to resort to military action to resolve the threats? Professor Gerald Steinberg, Director of the Conflict Management Program at Bar Ilán University and Executive Director of the NGO Monitor, discusses the issues with InfoLive TV.
Israel doesn't have a coherent leadership. We're in a leadership crisis. Our powerful leaders from Ben Gurion through Begin, Rabin, Sharon are no longer around. And we don't have a new generation who've appeared to help us deal with these very, very difficult issues. Israeli politics tends to be very, very local. There's a lot of corruption. So it's difficult to talk about a strategy when you don't have leaders to articulate that strategy.
The disappointing outcome of the last summer's Second Lebanon War, in which 119 soldiers and 57 civilians were killed, and the fact that our two soldiers, Ehud Goldwasser and Eldad Regev, remain in captivity, continue to remain at the forefront of public debate. Never before was the public so united in supporting the war, and now it waits patiently for the outcome of an investigation into the government and army's mismanagement. The result of last summer's war jolted the army into replenishing vital equipment and embarking on training programs to prepare the troops for a possible renewal of fighting with Hezbollah.
But you need to have a leadership to make sure that what needs to be done is actually done. The Israeli military had a coherent and I think a very good strategy to deal with Hezbollah.
Yes.
We didn't have the political leadership to implement that coherently.
On a recent visit to Israel, U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates said diplomacy is the only way to resolve Iran's nuclear threat. Yet it appears that international pressure on the Islamic Republic has hardly dented its plans to pursue nuclear capability. Iran hopes to manufacture 3,000 centrifuges by the end of 2007, and some strategists claim it will have its first bomb 9 months after that. Will diplomacy or military action resolve the Iranian nuclear threat?
Well, I agree that anybody in the U.S. government that's a member of the cabinet is not going to talk publicly about military options. And I don't think that anybody in Tehran would take his words very seriously if he said there were no military plans underway. Everything is open. All options are open. The question is, how much time do we have? I am optimistic that the sanctions, the diplomatic isolation of Iran, the mistakes the Iranian leadership are making, even within their own society, are costing them a great deal. They don't want to be like North Korea. They don't want to be considered to be the world's lepers.
The number of Israeli civilians killed in terror attacks since Israel's establishment is 1,635. Since the beginning of 2007, 4 Israelis were killed and 24 wounded in terror attacks. The Shin Bet security service has to deal with an average of 10 to 12 terror threats a day that stem from terror cells operating in Judea and Samaria as well as the Gaza Strip. The constant flow of tons of explosives and weapons from Egypt into Gaza and the massive funding of Palestinian terror groups by Iran are compounded by the public debate on releasing Palestinian prisoners with blood on their hands in order to secure soldier Gilad Shalit's freedom. Peace with the Palestinians seems a far-off option.
We've been living with Palestinian Arab terror violence against Israel since the November 47 partition resolution, which they rejected through violence and terror, mass terror. Unfortunately, that's one of those realities that doesn't change.
The fact that Europe continues to send millions of dollars in funds to the Palestinian Authority, while Israel refuses to meet with Palestinian leaders other than Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, does not appear to be bringing us closer to any positive peace agreement with the Palestinians.
Continue to get billions of dollars, pounds, euros, Swiss francs for being Palestinians, regardless of the hatred and regardless of the terrorism. They have no incentive to change.
Celebrating its 59th birthday, Israel's right to exist in peace is yet to be accepted by the Palestinian Unity government and moderate Arab countries. The memories of 22,305 members of Israeli security forces killed since 1948 will always be cherished. We can only hope that by Israel's 60th birthday, our 3 soldiers will have returned home, and the State of Israel will have a true leader to lead the nation forward.